Well, pick 11. I mean, we got Will Johnson, and we saw Will Johnson yesterday. He literally, I forget who did the mock draft. It was like an NFL analyst. Do you know who did it, Nick?
Yeah, Daniel Jeremiah.
Daniel Jeremiah. And Will Johnson fell to the Niners. We got Genty, Tyler Warren, Jalen Walker, James Pierce Jr. I think for me,
hold on, Nick, real quick, because I'm a little confused, and maybe some people who haven't seen this simulator before. So the first 10 picks have been simulated.
Yeah, do you want to go through the first 10 picks?
Can we look at them real quick? I'd be interested to see who went where.
So Cam Ward went first.
Okay.
Abdul Carter, Shedeur Sanders, Kelvin Banks went fourth, which it's a little crazy.
Yeah.
Mason Graham went fifth. This is kind of, I think this could happen, Mason Graham. But I've seen people say like Mason Graham could fall, which is, I don't know if he would fall. But you got McMillan to Vegas.
Membu going over Will Campbell is crazy.
That is crazy. I think I would switch,
but Will Campbell is the best one for sure.
I would switch Membu and Campbell. Then that would look kind of normal. And then Travis Hunter going to the Bears, it's a little bit crazy. I don't think Travis Hunter would fall that far, but he did. Now it's our pick. Nick, is there anyone on this list that stands out to you? Because for me, there's only one guy. But Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I was talking about yesterday. I think there's about 5 or 6 players that one or two of them is going to drop to the Niners. And Will's one of them. So I think you have to take Will here. I see a world where Jalen Walker's picked. It says edge here.
But he is a linebacker.
Yeah, and he plays kind of like a stack backer, so he can play backer. He's kind of like a Micah Parsons. Like he can play in a lot of different positions. He's fast, and he's been rising up the boards. So I could see a world where by draft day after the combine, after Grant gets him on his own stopwatch, and we get
that's right. The real time.
Real time.
Yeah.
I could see a world where we do go Jalen Walker, but if Will Johnson's here, I do think he's a lockdown number one corner. He got compared to Pat Surtain. I don't know if he is as good of a prospect coming out as Pat Surtain or will be as good as Pat Surtain, but I do like his capabilities. So,
Grant, what about you? Are you a guy that you want to take Ashton Genty, or are you a guy that wants to take Will Johnson? Or maybe
to me, the two best players in the draft are Genty and Warren, and they're just sitting there for you. And like, do they fill a need? Like, yes and no. I don't know. I mean, you want a trench player or a corner, one of these like premium positions, but I just think Genty's probably has a much higher grade on the draft board. I think Warren has a much higher grade on the draft board than those two players. I mean, Will Johnson's really good too. Jalen Walker's really good. I could definitely see the Niners going defense here and taking Walker or Pierce. I could see them taking an edge rusher here because, or even Walter Nolan, Quinnen Williams, because they really haven't addressed the trenches in a long time.
Yeah,
but I don't know. To me, I think I would take Tyler Warren, but I don't think they'll. I think I would. He looks so good to me.
He does look really good. He does look really good. But it's just like, I don't know if you can pass on a guy like Will Johnson. Like, he's like, I think he's either right behind Travis Hunter in this draft, or he's almost a little bit better than Travis Hunter at that cornerback position.
Let's talk about Will Johnson then. Will Johnson, great player. I have nothing to knock him. But you already have Lenore and Renardo Green. So you bring in Will Johnson, and Renardo Green is now your number 3 corner, he'd be a hell of a number 3 corner. But, I mean, I'd like him to be a starter.
Well, I mean, you're also going to have sets where you have 3 corners on the field.
70% of the time. That's true.
Yeah, and it seems to me like what's happening in today's NFL law is like you'll have like a CeeDee Lamb or even like a Jamar Chase or for sure a Monter St. Brown. Like a lot of these receivers are getting kicked inside, right? And playing the slot. So when you have somebody with the versatility like Demo who can slide inside, and then you can have Green on the outside with somebody like a Will Johnson.
Good luck passing.
Yeah, I think that's tough to beat.
It's tough. Yeah, that's a good call. It just seems like the Niners have made it their mission statement to address the trenches this offseason.
For sure. And I want them to, definitely. But Will Johnson, it's like, if you knew, so he got compared to Pat Surtain. So let's just say he is that, right?
Okay.
If you got Pat Surtain, the Niner, like every Niner and The front office is going to take that 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, the league would be cooked if we got a Pat Surtain Jr. The league would be cooked.
Yeah, it'd be tough to pass on.
I do like Tyler Warren though, and the Niners haven't. When's the last time? Like I think, like I don't remember the last time the Niners have had a good backup tight end. It's literally just been Kittle. Actually, you know what? Eric Saubert's a great backup tight end. We should sign him again.
Also, Genty. I mean, we saw what happened to the Niners when they lost McCaffrey, and there's no guarantee that McCaffrey will be McCaffrey ever again. It seemed like the best teams have incredible running backs now, and it's becoming more of a running league. I mean, passing is down. It was like 217 yards a game throughout the league this year. So, I mean, I love Jordan Mason, but he wasn't necessarily that difference maker that Christian McCaffrey was. And Genty seems like a similar player. I don't know.
The only reason why I say no to Genty here is because of how many times we've seen Shanahan go from the 3rd round on and pick a running back and him be special. You know, like you have Elijah Mitchell. He was the 7th round, I think, or 6th round. You have Jordan Mason undrafted. Like there's so many running backs he's drafted that just were either late picks or undrafted that have like been able to run capable. Like they've been capable runners in our offense. So I don't know if spending the number 11.
That's true, but they haven't been able to replicate what McCaffrey can do as a dual threat as a receiver as well. And I think that's why Genty is so highly regarded. Not just what he can do as a runner, but all the potential he has as a receiver as well, and what that does for Purdy in this offense.
Personally, I think there's a better dual threat running back in this draft, but that's later in the draft. Okay. I think there's someone better. I feel Genty. We have McCaffrey. We extended him. We stick with him, which, yes, he's injured. We've seen this injury. We don't even know how good he's going to be when he comes back. I do think this draft is so running back heavy that I think later rounds we can get a guy and he could be great. I just think drafting Ashton Genty, I think Genty would want to be the starter too. But if McCaffrey's there, you know Shanahan loves McCaffrey. He's going to play him 10 out of the 10 times. We saw it. Jordan Mason was having a great year. McCaffrey comes in. Jordan Mason doesn't touch the field again. So I think
I have a prediction. I think if this is how the board lays out, I think the Niners take either Jalen Walker or James Pierce. I think they take the edge rusher they like the best.
I don't like.
I think you don't like James Pierce?
No.
How come?
I mean, he going into this last year, he was like probably a top 10 lock.
He was number 1, Nick.
Yeah, or arguably the number 1 pick. Yeah,
I saw mock drafts. He was supposed to go number 1.
Yeah, I just think he's really raw. I think he has a lot of skills he has to work on. He's got speed, but he can't really, like, if you're comparing like him to Abdul Carter per se, like he can't bend a corner or like straight overpower someone like Abdul Carter can. So I don't really like him. Like,
and to be honest,
the reason I like Pierce is he's played in a 4-man front. He's played DN. He's played with his hand in the dirt. Yeah. He is fast. He does convert speed to power. He had a very high pass rush win rate, which is a pretty translatable stat. He has he's not Abdul Carter, but he does have arguably the most explosive first, second, third step of the edge rushers. And you know that's something that Chris Kasarik and Robert Saleh look for. So whether or not it's the right pick, I think they're going to be tantalized by his skill set. Jalen Walker's interesting too. I'm curious to see how he tests. I just don't know what position he plays. Like, you could argue that he could be Dre Greenlaw's replacement, or you could argue that he could be Leonard Floyd's replacement. I don't really know what to make of him, but he does seem like an incredible athlete that Howie Roseman would take.
Yeah, and I think he is a safe pick because of what you said. Like, I think there's going to be downs. If say we draft him, I think there's going to be downs where he takes Dre Greenlaw's spot. And then I also think there's going to be downs that if we have a linebacker that we either draft in this draft or, say Jalen Graham or D Winter steps up even more this year, I think they push one of them in and then kick him down to edge and see what he can do on the edge. So, yeah, I do think it's a safe pick. Usually linebacker, because he's just like a linebacker technically. So usually linebacker at 11 is pretty early for a backer. But since the capability of playing edge, I think it's a safe pick.
Yeah, Patrick Willis was the 11th pick. So if you're going to be a linebacker taking that high, you better be pretty freaking special. One more guy I want to ask you about, because this guy was at the Senior Bowl and KJ Wright was coaching him. So the Niners know him. Mike Green, what do you think?
Yeah, he's a stud. I mean,
Okay.
I think a lot of people are kind of kicking him down for small school. You know how it goes. But he's a stud. I think there's a world where he comes out, and I think Abdul Carter's going to be better than him, maybe have a better NFL career. But outside of Abdul Carter, I could see a world where he's the second best edge rusher coming out.
I could see the Niners taking him if they like what they saw from him at the Senior Bowl. They know him pretty well. They didn't take any juniors last year. I don't know if they're going to change that trend, but they took 0 juniors last year.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe it's because Trey Lance burned him, but Mike Green, senior, explosive, could be. One more guy I want to ask you about. A lot of people in Niners Twitter universe like Walter Nolan.
Yeah.
What do you think of him?
If we go D line, he's my favorite pick here.
Okay.
He's a stud. He's kind of like he's like a quicker, faster, better, like Jerome Hargrove. You know what I mean?
Hargrave, yeah.
I think he's a stud. I think he can rush the passer very well, and if you have him inside next to Bosa, it's going to be really hard to stop that side of the whole line. So I think he can bull rush you. I think he needs some work in run stopping, and maybe put on a little bit of weight. But outside of that, and if you're doing that, I think the Niners, if they draft Nolan here, I think they do it in mind of getting a bigger D lineman later in the draft that can kind of be a run stuffer, either next to him or on later downs. So
I like Nolan a lot. He seems like a monster one-on-one. But in a 4-man front and a wide 9 at 293 pounds, he might have the same issues that Hargrave had as a run defender. That's my question with him.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Also, it's supposed to be a really deep drafted defensive tackle. So if you don't take one here, you could get one in round 2 or 3. Not that the Niners have had any success drafting that position. You know what's funny? The Niners are still trying to replace DeForest Buckner, if you think about it, man. They tried to replace him with Javon Kinlaw, didn't work. Then they tried to replace him with Javon Hargrave, didn't work. And now they're on to option 3 all these years later.
So who do we pick? Who do we pick first round, boys? Who do we pick? There's so many. I just think for Walter Nolan, I don't know if you'd pick him.
The scary part about taking Will Johnson here is that now what do you do in rounds 2 and 3? Like, do you have to go D-line round 2? Like, can you get all your trench players on day 2?
I mean, I think you have to focus trenches, but for some reason, I don't know if it's like a human psychological thing, but when I've done these mock drafts, when I see somebody like a Will Johnson, who, like, in my opinion, is best player available here, right? Not necessarily the best for the Niners, but I think he's best player available. For some reason, it makes me want to take BPA for the rest of the draft. But I think you have to get off that and fill needs as well. But also taking best player available is what the Eagles do. So let's
do it. Let's do it. Let's go with Will Johnson. It was Daniel Jeremiah's pick. He's arguably the best player available. And he would give the Niners 3 lockdown corners. It'd be really tough to pass against the Niners.
Yeah, it would. Definitely.
They still would have no run defense. We got to work on that run defense, guys. Because the Super Bowl champs just won while throwing for 181 yards a game. So it's not necessarily the passing league that it was 10 years ago.